Hello friends, today we will talk about sonnet. The sonnet is one of the most recognizable and common forms to be used in poetry. Though it has some restrictions on rhyme and meter, it is a relatively open form which allows for a greater range of expression. The sonnet has become popular among different poets because it has a greater adaptability to different purposes and requirements. The sonnet is unique among poetic forms in Western literature in that it has retained its appeal for major poets for 5 centuries. It is a perfect poetic style for elaboration or expression of a single feeling or thought, with its short length and iambic pentameter. In fact, it gives an ideal setting for a poet to explore strong emotions. Due to its short length, it is easily manageable to both the writers and the reader. Sonnets were first written in Italian and were traditionally love poems. By the 13th century, it signified a poem of 14 lines that follows a strict rhyme scheme and a specific structure. The Italian poet Giacomo da Lentini created the form in the 13th century. Petrarchan developed it to its highest levels during the early Renaissance Italy. His Congenere, a sequence of poems including 317 sonnets, addressed to his idealized beloved Laura, established and perfected the Petrarchan or Italian sonnet, which remains one of the 2 principal sonnet forms as well as the one most widely used. The other major form is the English or Shakespearean sonnet, which wasn't translated into English until the 16th century. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, the new forms precipitated the great Elizabethan flowering of lyric poetry, and the period marks the peak of the sonnet's English popularity. In the course of adapting the Italian form to a language less rich in rhymes, that is English, the Elizabethans gradually arrived at the distinctive English sonnet, which is composed of 3 quatrains, each having an independent rhyme scheme and is ended with a rhymed couplet. In the English sonnet, we have 3 quatrains, A, B, C, D, E, F, and a couplet in the end, G. Definition of sonnet. The word sonnet is derived from the Italian word sonetto, which means a little song or small lyric. In poetry, a sonnet has 14 lines and is written in iambic pentameter. Each line has 10 syllables. It has a specific rhyme scheme and a volta or a specific turn. In the Italian sonnet, that volta occurs after the octave, and in the English sonnet, volta occurs before the last concluding couplet. Different types of sonnets evolved in different languages of the poets writing them, with variations in rhyme scheme and metrical pattern. But all sonnets have a 2-part thematic structure containing a problem and a solution, question and answer, or proposition and reinterpretation within their 14 lines, and a volta, a turn between the 2 parts. Sonnets can be categorized into 6 major types. The first type is, of course, Italian sonnet, which this Italian sonnet was originated in Italy. That's why it is called Italian sonnet, and Petrarch perfected this type of sonnet. The second is English sonnet or Shakespearean sonnet. Although Shakespearean did not invent this sonnet, but Shakespeare popularized this type of sonnet. Third is Spenserian sonnet. Fourth, Miltonic sonnet. Milton wrote on the Petrarchan scheme, but he experimented with this kind of technique. Next is terza rima, and the last one is curtailed sonnet of Hopkins. Now let's talk about Petrarchan sonnets in detail. The first and most common sonnet is the Petrarchan or Italian sonnet. The structure of a typical Italian sonnet has two parts that together form a compact form of argument. Named after one of its greatest practitioners, the Italian poet Petrarch, it is divided into two stanzas. The octave, that is the first 8 lines, which is composed of 2 envelope quatrains rhyming A, followed by the answering sestet, the final 6 lines. The sestet's rhyme pattern varies, though it is most often either CDE, this type of end is Italian sestet, or CDC, DCD, this is Sicilian sestet. Since the Petrarchan presents an argument, observation, question, or some other answerable charge in the octave, a turn or volta occurs between the 8th and 9th lines. The term marks a shift in the direction of the argument or narrative, turning the sestet into the vehicle for the counter-argument, clarification, or whatever answer the octave demands. Now let's talk about English sonnet or Shakespearean sonnet, how it entered England, how it was developed. Sir Thomas Whyte introduced the Petrarchan sonnet to England in the early 16th century. His famed translations of Petrarch's sonnets, as well as his own sonnets, drew fast attention to the form. Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, a contemporary of Whyte's, whose own translations of Petrarch are considered more faithful to the original, though less fine to the ears. He modified the Petrarchan, thus establishing the structure that became known as the English or Shakespearean sonnet. It was Surrey who developed the rhyme scheme A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G, which now characterizes the English sonnet. In English, both types of sonnets, the English or Shakespearean sonnet and the Italian or Petrarchan sonnets, are traditionally written in iambic pentameter. These sonnets were all essentially inspired by the Petrarchan tradition and generally treat of the poet's love for some woman, with the exception of Shakespeare's sequence of 154 sonnets. Shakespearean sonnet. The second major type of sonnet, the Shakespearean or English sonnet, follows a different set of rules. This contains 3 Sicilian quatrains and 1 heroic couplet at the end. With an A, B, C, D, E, F, and G rhyme scheme. The turn comes at or near line 13, making the ending couplet quick and dramatic. The couplet plays a pivotal role, usually arriving in the form of a conclusion, amplification, or even refutation of the previous 3 stanzas, often creating an epiphanic quality to the end. In Shakespeare's sonnets, the volta usually comes in the couplet and usually summarizes the theme of the poem or introduces a fresh new look at the theme. In the Shakespearean sonnets, the supposed love theme is of less interest than the underlying reflections on time and art and growth and decay and fame and fortune. In its subsequent development, the sonnet departed even further from the theme of love. By the time Donne wrote his religious sonnets and Milton wrote sonnets on political and religious subjects or on personal themes such as his own blindness, the sonnet had embraced nearly all the subjects of poetry. I hope you have enjoyed the lecture, the talk, and I thank you for listening the talk attentively and with full concentration. We will talk about other topics later on in the coming series. We will talk about the English ode. We will talk about the history of English elegy and pastoral poetry and many other topics. So thank you for listening to me attentively. Thank you very much.